What is up, guys, and welcome back to OWL by the Numbers, your one-stop spot for all things Fantasy Overwatch League. I am your host, Humbly Drunk, and tonight on episode 25, we'll be taking a look at some of the last-minute roster additions headed into Stage 4. The Overwatch League lays the groundwork for fantasy potential in the future, and of course, we will share our picks for some of Stage 4 of Week 1's biggest matches. Before we can jump into the agenda for tonight and introduce you to my co-host, let me just take a quick moment to thank everyone who is joining us tonight on Twitch for our live show, and of course to thank all of our repeat listeners out there. So as you can tell, guys, we have a full house here tonight on what was definitely the busiest week of Overwatch news across the board, whether it was general Overwatch, Overwatch League, a little bit of fantasy stuff. It's a lot going on at one time, and I couldn't be more excited. But Ed, we've had some shenanigans on the PTR. We got a lot of updates. We nearly went for 3 hours last week, so all bets are off at this point.
Yeah, no, we went almost 3 hours on H&D last week, and that is without 222 and without the new hero.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. It's a good thing that they didn't release 222 till the next day, because we would have probably gone for 4 hours.
Technically, they did. We just didn't realize it.
That is my ultimate favorite thing from this week, because I was watching Bren's stream, like my counterpart, and everyone in chat's like, dude, they just released 222 Rollock. He's like, no, they didn't. And then all of a sudden they're like, no, it's on the Overwatch League site. And he's just like, you gotta be shitting me. And he's just like, I'm not commenting on any of this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, fair enough. Fair enough. But yeah, no, it dropped in the middle of the show. It's a massive week for us. Like, massive week, just not only from Overwatch League, but we got crazy unexpected fantasy Overwatch League news to new hero news. Like, they hit everything from fantasy Overwatch League to actual regular gameplay in a 7-day span. And it's been amazing and a little blurry and confusing.
It's almost so much information that Bob almost doesn't know how to handle it, because he's about to explode from all of the news, basically at the seams at this point.
Yeah, it's been a roller coaster of a week, and along with all of this news, I've played 30 to 35 hours on the PTR in this last week. It's been absolutely nutty, and it's interesting how they put so much stuff out all at once. Like, you thought, okay, it's over. All right, well, got 222. Well, the new hero's not going to be out for a couple weeks. Nope. It's coming in. It's coming in hot. Like, just less than 7 days after 222.
Yeah, like, you want to go to them and be like, you guys need to work on your whole, let's spread this out a little. Like, you don't need to release all the information within 1 week. We don't need 4 developer updates in 7 days.
Oh no!
We don't go 2
awesome,
months, but we go with 2 months without one.
I mean,
and then we get 4 in 7 days.
To be fair,
3.5.
To be fair, Ed, that first developer update was like, hey, there's more stuff coming and more developer updates. So we can't count that
announcement
one.
of an announcement.
We had an update of an update, and then we had an update that was a tease, and then we had 2 regular updates. So
man, we're all gonna be so bummed when BlizzCon comes around and it's just like it's a hero. Boom. Bye.
From what I hear, man, no one will tell me exactly what it is, but everybody that I know that knows is like, dude, you just definitely, if there's 1 year you want to go to in the last 5, you better be here this year. So
Overwatch 3 is coming, guys. Overwatch 3.
They're skipping 2.
They're skipping 2.
You 2.
They're going the
We're
Thanksgiving
to 3.
route. So, like, in Overwatch 3, Overwatch 2 will exist in that universe, but it just won't ever see the light of day. Is that it?
It was Overwatch 2 is the Overwatch BR that they were working on, that they're like, nope, we're too late to the party. We're just
Overwatch 2 has Overwatch 2 has Jetpack Cat in it. That's why we could never actually get it. Therefore,
Yeah,
Overwatch 3.
Evil Maui and Jetpack Cat,
Mhm.
all on Overwatch 2 that we can never play.
Basically. But anyways, guys, let's go ahead and jump into the news this week. So we actually got...
I'm Ramses, by the way. Hi, good to see you guys.
Ramses is also here.
Awkward.
He's kind of in the background, just patiently waiting to figure out what we're going to do with our lineup this week, as the first thing that we're going to talk about actually impacts our team, Ramses, and that is the Dynasty making a particular move to the inactive roster. So what's going on with the Soulmates this week?
So, Soul's been a team that we've seen a lot of shuffling around. I mean, at one point they were fielding two completely different starting lineups, but as stage 3 went on, we kind of saw them almost not settle, but kind of start focusing on a specific lineup. And one of those players that we didn't see a lot of actually was Munchkin, who was a DPS for Soul Dynasty, even back to Lunatic High during Apex days. Consistently a journeyman DPS, somebody who was really good, but could never kind of break the ice up into that top tier of DPS, like your Carpes, your Sabiobis, anything like that. So we hadn't really seen him in the lineup that much recently, but it looks like going forward, we're not going to see him in the lineup at all. Soul has released an announcement saying that they're going to be moving him to the inactive roster, that he's going to ride out the rest of the competitive year in Korea, and that his time, at least for this season, on the Overwatch League stage is over. So from a league and a player perspective, it's a bummer because it's always hard to see a player that you've enjoyed watching for a long time decide to take a step away. But from a purely fantasy perspective, it's not that it's unexpected, but I don't know how much it really hurts you. Because at least we personally, I mean, Totem can make sure on this, we haven't been starting Munchkin for a while just because it looked like he wasn't going to play at all.
It was really only a couple of weeks, though, in retrospect.
Mm.
So it wasn't, as impactful, but, Munchkin was one of our top DPS earners, at least for our particular team.
What's interesting is he's not retiring. He's just taking a break. So he's still on the roster.
Right.
Well, and this brings down Soul's DPS lineup to Fleta, Illicit, and Fitz, correct?
That is correct.
So, I mean, it makes your predictions a little bit easier to put in. Out of those three, you gotta wonder who they keep in as their ringer all the time, or if they just are always rotating all three of them.
Let us revert to what Soul has been doing all along. No one knows what they're doing.
Well, they were running Fleta Fitz throughout the season, or the stage playoffs, so I'm assuming that's going to be their most flexible of the options that they have on the team.
Throughout the stage playoffs. One match.
True.
I mean, that's what it was before then, though. It wasn't just one match.
And that was before 2-2-2. I don't know what they're going to do. This is one team Marvel is the only one I could bank on this team.
Well, Fleta is the most flexible DPS on this lineup. It's the other two they had to worry about.
We can say that all we want, but the thing is one thing I've learned with the Overwatch League this year is that expect the unexpected.
I feel another bet
crazy
coming on.
Things. Well, no, I'm not saying betting wise. I think Fleta will be in there, but if you told me Fleta was out 2 or 3 of the maps, I'd be like, that's just Soul playing.
They've done it throughout.
Yeah,
they've done it. They've done it throughout season 2 here, but with DPS back in the mix, might be a different story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it could be and it probably is going to be Fleta. It's just. It's one of those teams where I don't know if anyone's safe on the team. You would have thought that Jae-Hong would have been safe on this team, and he wasn't. Me and you learned that the hard way, Totem, in Unlimited, when he just didn't really get played. It's one of those things where this team, even though they lost 2 people and they can't have the split 6-6 rosters, I don't know if I can trust a set roster until I see them do it for at least 2 weeks.
For now, you can at least trust Marvel, though.
Yeah, Marvel is the one because, they have no backup main team. Like, if you have no backup, you have the ultimate job security. But then who knows? Watch. J Kong comes out. Ray J Kong comes out, and it's Marvel's on the bench.
One last ride.
Like,
Oh, wait, that's Tarzan.
Like, would any like? We would probably be surprised, but we'd be like, Soul's doing Soul things, and they're putting J-Hong on main tank. Like, it's just one of those things. This team is so unpredictable.
I'm pretty sure that wouldn't be my gut reaction, Ed. That'd be more like, what the is Soul
Yeah, you
doing
would
this
have a
time?
lot more four-letter words that give
Dude,
us the adult label.
Mhm.
I remember I was at the Stage 3 finals and I was getting food across the street from the arena. And I just started getting these texts that Ryu Jae-hong is on Monkey. And I was like, shut up. And I'd like pull up my phone and sure enough, it was like, can we request him for an interview afterwards? We didn't get him, but
Yeah, be
tried.
like, I want to talk to him, like now. Like, I have lots of questions for you.
Yeah, I mean, last season was pretty interesting with tank experimentations. So outside of the Munchkin movement to an active, there was a pretty big trade between the Guangzhou Charge and the Philadelphia Fusion. And Bob, I know you're probably pretty excited about this one in regards to a certain main tank player potentially getting to see some more play on a new team. So what went down between the Charge and the Fusion?
Fraggy got traded for Kib, KYB. He's been in jail for a long time, and everybody's been yelling, "Free Fraggy!" And now he's gonna get freed. And I don't know that he sees play immediately, but it'll be interesting to see what he's been working on in his off time, to see what tanks he can play coming right out of gate. But an aggressive tank is always my type of tank.
Yeah, no, I love this trade. I love this trade more for the Fusion than I do for the Charge. I'm one of the very few who thinks Kib has a lot of starting potential as a Roadhog.
No, I was about to say, not
We're in
as-
that club.
Yes.
Yeah, we're in that club.
Like, I think Kib could basically get plugged in over Poco in certain comps.
Yeah,
if
it's
they decide
bunker
to
time.
if they decide to do Orisa Roadhog.
But I'm
And
just wondering if Monkey Ball Dive is going to be the thing, and we can call it Super Monkey Ball. New comp.
I like the sound of that, especially since, nerd alert, they're remaking Super Monkey Ball.
I knew you were gonna go there.
And if you've never played Super Monkey Ball, you are missing out. It was the original party game before Mario Party. So go play Super Monkey Ball. Ramses, you're too young for this.
I've played Super Monkey Ball.
You haven't played an OG Super Monkey Ball.
I'm
Probably
sorry.
played,
I played arcade Super Monkey Ball. I'm sorry.
on what console have you played Super Monkey Ball?
Like on an arcade. Like,
on,
where
like,
you
an
like you
arcade
roll the
machine?
ball. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, like I'm talking like Dreamcast. Sega Dreamcast is where I first got my Super Monkey Ball. Super Monkey Ball. All right, now that's all I'm thinking about. Somebody else can talk.
So I definitely think Kib has some decent starting potential on certain maps. We're gonna have to see how this shakes out because I know we've been pretty confident it's gonna be. I know for a while was very confident it was gonna be just bunker all the time, but it sounds like we're gonna get a little bit more variation on what comps we see being played. So I think he has a lot of starting potential as a Roadhog. For Fraggy, I really don't. I would love to say he starts, but I'm pretty doubtful about it. Then again, we don't know how he's been playing. It's just, it's interesting because Guangzhou is this team that we know has arguably like the highest like visibility for their fan base in China. Like those are the fans we see come out the most. But they keep making these plays for like Western players as well. Like they did
Can
it
you
with
imagine-
Kib in the first place.
Can you imagine next year how big Fraggy will be compared to everyone that's around him? Hello, 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 hello. Just as he pats everybody on the head.
Fraggy after 2,000 dumplings.
Especially now that
Just
like
imagine it.
if we aren't sure that Ryan's going to be like as prevalent as he has been this past couple stages, I don't know if you take Rio out for him, just because Rio's a solid monkey.
Yeah, it all
Fraggy's
depends on what
solid
they
monkey.
want. It is, and you're right, Rantis. We like everyone wants to jump on the free Fraggy train, but we haven't seen Fraggy play. The only reason people were screaming free Fraggy is because Sato looked like complete and utter crap. Like he just did not look good. The
Yeah, I
majority.
mean, people were yelling to free Fraggy when he first got benched.
Yeah,
Yes.
me too.
It's just he's a
What?
very popular player.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Like he wasn't like, oh my god, he's one of the top 5 tanks in the league. He was
Of course not.
fan favorite, and people are screaming. I mean, people were screaming free Mendo.
He was the top fragging Reinhardt.
Sure,
Monkey.
Sure. Well, he's not that
Not
anymore.
monkey though. Not monkey though.
You can't give him that anymore. I don't think he even holds the the luggage for Bumper at this point.
Yeah, we're just gonna have to see what he's got in his tank because we haven't seen him on stage
Mm-hmm.
for a year.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and I really want to see him play against Fusion on Thursday.
Right. Now, it is worth stating
Really
that for the
cool.
Guangzhou charge, Fraggy was not the only tank that they picked up. And before we talk about that other sign-in, basically when I saw this, I basically looked at the Guangzhou charge, and this is the youngest team in the Overwatch League. They're looking for that sort of like veteran presence on this lineup, and the 2 pickups that they did get, one, they acquired via cash, the other via trade. Both of these are veteran players who can bring a lot to the table and bring some leadership to this team, which could be something that they're lacking, because that lack of experience at times is definitely noticeable in some of their engages. Are not knowing when to back out, overextend, and things like that, and they need someone to kind of like rein them in a little bit, and I feel like Fraggy and their new off-tank is going to help with that. So Ed, Guangzhou Charge, they went out and they acquired someone from the LA Gladiators who has kind of been on the back burner due to some previous health issues and haven't gone to contenders for a little bit. So why don't we talk a little bit about what's been going on with Bishu?
Yeah, so Bishu, like at the start of the season with the Gladiators, he was sick, so he obviously didn't play. Then when he came back, he was a 2-way player. When really he was just playing for the Gladiators Legion contenders team.
Smurfing and contenders.
Yeah, him and XQC, or actually him and Panker, but XQC was in the background. And Bishu has been one of those consistent players. He's the ultimate translator for a team, which I think is something the Charge will need when it comes to Nero and Fraggy, and then dealing with the rest of the team. And he's not a bad diva. Like, I do not dislike Bishu.
Solid.
And the only reason he wasn't playing to start the year, I honestly think, was because he was sick.
Mm-hmm.
And you also have to take into account the tank line for the Gladiators played in. I forgot the name of the Korean contenders team they played together with, but they played together in Korean contenders.
That was KDP.
GC.
KDP. So like the 2 tanks played together previously. Bishu deserves to be a starting off tank, I think, especially on Diva. I do not know how his Roadhog is. I do not know how his Zarya is. But he's going to be that mentor, that he's going to take over the leadership role, like you said. Kind of be the wise old man on the team at 23.
I didn't realize they were the youngest team and they had taken that from San Francisco.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So it's great. I think the Charge needed to change something up. They're in a tough division now. Well, CH4
In the future.
in the future, and they
Eventually.
they needed to upgrade their tank line. You had Hotba on the team, who was great because Hotba could flex. Well, the Hotba can't flex between off tank and DPS. Like, so you get
Nobody can.
Yeah, you get that consistent main tank, and maybe Hotba goes away, or however this works. We just don't know because we don't know how their Zaryas, Roadhogs, how Wrecking Balls, how they play on those characters. But the smart thing for a lot of teams right now is to bring in more tanks, because if you look at the majority of teams, they have their main tank, and then they have their diva player. And I don't know if they want to just stick with the diva player as their off tank.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you want to get more off tank players who can fill more positions that, depending on the meta, the Roadhogs, the Zaryas, stuff like that. So this is just smart. Just keep adding tanks left and right. Just if you can have 4 or 5 tanks on your team, you're probably in a good spot.
Diva's about to get a whole lot harder to play, though, with her losing 33% of her distance on Matrix. And then on top of that, the new graphical change to Matrix makes it extremely easy to know when it's up and when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, I think she'll still be run in a lot of variations of dive, which I think we're going to be running a lot of. But like you said pre-show, Bob, Winston Hammond could be the new dive. Like,
it could be. I mean, it could definitely be something that could break up bunker as long as you do it quickly. There's a lot of damage going in there and a lot of CC with the ball.
and like here's the thing: if you're running against double sniper, like, one of the big attributes of Diva is she can negate ults and stuff like that, because everything else I think Hammond can do just as well. Can get to high grounds just as well. Can be an annoyance in the backline just as well. But Hammond can't negate ults like Diva can. Mm-hmm. But if you're running Hanzo and Widowmaker, obviously Diva can't negate a Widowmaker ult. And Hanzo ult is more of a zoning tool, really, than anything. So
without a grab, at least.
Yeah. So maybe a Hammond is a smarter call out there. Like, we just don't know at this point, and we're going in fantasy-wise. We are going in blind.
Yeah,
and there's going to be a lot of stuff that we will not expect week 1.
Yeah, Hotba's biggest asset in the past has been his flexibility, so it really kind of puts a question mark about what his role is exactly going to be on this team, whether he is going to start as their off tank, or like, is there a situation where if Dai becomes meta where Hotba is actually going to be used as the DPS mainstay on this team to play the Tracer? Like, there's so many questions that we just need to figure out at this point. But I would definitely be concerned about Hotba's current status with the Guangzhou charge, just due to the fact that he's not going to have the same amount of opportunities to have an impact due to that flexibility with the role lock in place this stage.
Yeah, it's, you're going to see a lot of tanks like that, especially fantasy-wise, that you just don't know what they're going to do. Like, a couple that come to mind is, RCK. Like, RCK for Boston has played almost the majority of his time on Sombra last stage. Well, is he going to be sticking on as the sole diva? Or what is RCK going to do?
Can play a pretty dang good Roadhog.
His Roadhog's pretty good. Yeah.
But you don't know if any of these, what about Color Hex, or we don't know. Some of these DPS are maybe better Roadhogs. Like, I think Spider talked about this, or you and Spider talked about this yesterday on the Houston Outlaws. The best Roadhog on the team is Raucous.
Yeah, and a lot of that too is because primarily the flex supports, when we had these Roadhog compositions, running the pulled pork, a lot of the time you were doing a solo support, and then your Zenyatta player was flexing over to the Roadhog, and that was the case for a majority of the teams in the league.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, we just have zero idea what's going on. I mean, we can make the best guess we can, but fantasy-wise, going into week 1, it's kind of like going into week 1 of stage 1.
Right.
We just didn't know what was going to happen, and we all went like, divas are going to be super strong in fantasy, and then we're like, that is a complete and utter failure.
Yeah, it's kind of a bummer because I'd kind of like teams to have to state what their player is and stick to it. Like, I don't really like that you could put a DPS player in a tank spot for one map if you want to. I don't like that at all because that just makes it harder. And
Yeah.
it just, like, you gotta give supports and tanks a chance to play the other characters. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like, tell me that Harry Hook couldn't play an awesome dang it, what's his name?
Roadhog?
Soldier.
Soldier.
No, the new healer.
Baptiste.
Baptiste, yeah. Seeing his soldier play in the past, tell me he couldn't play Baptiste really like really well. I'd like to see supports play supports, tanks play tanks, and DPS play DPS. I don't like when DPS slot in for different role.
No, like Rascal.
Yeah,
Rascal's,
I don't.
yeah.
Yeah, I don't like that at all.
I don't like it, but from a fantasy perspective, I don't know how they deal with that. Because, like, I do think, and we'll talk about this with some later news, I do think we're going towards an official fantasy league next year. I don't know how they're going to handle all of that. They could implement new rules for teams, but I don't know if they'll do it. But I agree with you, Bob. Like, it's frustrating. You know, when you have Rascal come in only as, like, the flex support. Baptiste, and then Striker comes in, and you know, it's great to see if you're not paying attention to fantasy, but for fantasy wise, it's infuriating.
Yeah, so expect a lot of experimentation, I would say, like the first couple of weeks, and then hopefully after that it'll kind of, I don't want to say like mellow out, but it will be more streamlined and we'll have a clear indicator of where exactly the direction for these teams is going. Now, speaking of supports, there was also a move from the LA Valiant over the Shanghai, and Izayaki has joined the Dragons following their Stage 3 championship win, so this is a pretty interesting signing. So looking back, Izayaki had first joined the Valiant back in April, and he was really like the last addition to that team at the time because they were filling out a 12-man roster. And he basically went from not starting in 2018 to becoming a starting flex support. And then, you know, this was at a time when Kariv was playing DPS because Kariv could basically do anything at this point. But basically, Kariv ended up winning out that starting spot further into the season. And you know, with the Dragons right now, this is only their second roster move that we have seen for them after they had acquired Envy this past month from the Toronto Defiant. So Valiant are now down to the 8-man minimum for their roster. And then you have Izayaki coming into the Dragons, who is going to be potentially like splitting time or just acting as a bench boy behind Luffy at this point. So long term, I really like this sign-in. I feel like Izayaki, with the Valiant have kind of like just gone for like that Western Front at this point, and this is just another shore up of that in particular. But Izayaki has definitely had a lot of potential, and he's a coachable player. So I think long term, this is a good sign-in. I just don't know what the immediate impact is going to be in regards to fantasy for the Dragons here, because Luffy's been looking pretty good, and the protection that support line in particular got throughout the Sage playoffs has really brought a lot of value, fantasy-wise, to the Shanghai Dragons.
I just wonder if they were in talks with it for a while now, because Luffy wasn't looking great. Like, you know, earlier on in the season, he just had the monster game, and then monster game also in the playoffs was a lot due to him getting saved with 10 health left multiple times.
Well, his Ana's always looked better than his Zen. Like, his Zen was all right. Like, it did well fantasy wise, but like his Zen was always like,
Izzy.
that's what I have to think, is that like you're gonna keep Luffy's Zen, but Luffy's Ana, but Izayaki's Zen is at least like gets enough picks, and again, you hope they can coach the trans usage out of him. It does make me feel not very confident about starting either of them, just because you don't think they're gonna play all 4 maps.
Right.
Yeah, it kind of brings both of their values down.
The other thing you got to think is Izayaki may have just have wanted out of the Valiant and just would really go to any team because he wasn't playing over Kareev, obviously. So he was riding the pine already. Who says he's demanding a trade to go start somewhere? Maybe he's asking for a trade somewhere where next season he can be closer to home. Like, that's something you also have to take into account with all this is starting next season, a lot of these players, if you're in the Pacific West division or whatever the China South Korea division is, you're going to be closer to home. And that's a big deal for a lot of these players. So if you're riding the pine already, maybe this is a way to go there. And Shanghai probably jumped all over it because they probably didn't have to give up too much money for him since he was asking off the team and the Valiant were going in the opposite direction from a Korean roster. So they probably just wanted his salary off the books. And that's probably almost it. And Shanghai's like, well, we're going to bolster our team. Like, if Zen comes back into the meta, we have Izayaki. If Anna sticks in the meta, we have Luffy. We have the best of both worlds with our flex supports. So, like, they're just adding quality depth to their team. And everyone's kind of, it's a win-win for all three parties involved, for Dragons, Valiant, and Izayaki. Like, fantasy-wise, I don't think this has a big impact right now because I don't see Zen getting played. But I think this was a great pickup for the Dragons.
Potential scenario here too. There's not like I could see for them just keeping Luffy in just because they already have that pre-established synergy for a long time. And there's also there's something to be said as Valiant doesn't know what to do with Izayaki. Obviously, no one if there were other people in the trade negotiations, that's a separate thing. I could definitely see a world where he doesn't start the rest of the stage and they trade him again, like for another high value piece once the season's over. I wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't play, but if you have a player like that, I think you want him in at least a little bit to see what you got.
Well, like, you also have to think there's a reason he got benched. He got benched on an 0-7 team. There's reasons for that. Does he have skill? Yes. Is he incredibly raw? Yes. He's like Quartermain for the Spitfire. Probably got put in too soon. Probably out of his league until he learns a little more. And you saw a lot of those flaws. So over time, I think maybe, but like, he could get traded to another team. It's just dependent on what the meta's going to be.
Well, Quartermain didn't level up quick enough because he never rapped on stage in Overwatch League. That was a real issue.
I don't get how you don't rap on stage.
Bring it back to Apex days. But anyways.
Another one.
Yeah. Yes, another one. So we got a little bit of surprise news this week that kind of threw us off guard a little bit, because I know you and I were talking about this, and we were looking at this, and just based on the title, we're like, is this actually happening? Like, is this going to be the groundwork for Season 3 Fantasy? So why don't we talk about the new system that's been put in place that is going to be active as of this week?
So yeah, as we're talking, like, everyone knew 222 was coming. Really, everyone knew a new hero was coming. You know, all that stuff was kind of predictable. The one thing completely out of left field that no one saw coming was league picks for Overwatch League. So what do I mean by league picks? When you read it, you immediately think, okay, we're just gonna have a pickup league. And it's more than that. So what it is on match days, you go to overwatchleague.com on desktop or mobile, an hour before the start of the live broadcast. The Twitch player will automatically load at the top of the page, but starting July 25th, you'll see the league picks panel on the right side of the player desktop and below the player on mobile. Now, what this will do is it will ask you questions. We don't know what they're going to be. They're probably going to be very broad questions about each map, like who's going to win, what is the map score going to be. I don't think it's going to be about specific players, like at all.
I could see it maybe.
They can't take that risk. They just can't. Like you're like, let's say the last stage, they're like, how many shatter stunts does Fissure have? And then Fissure not play. You know what I mean? Like, I don't think you can take that risk, but you can do stuff like which team will get more final blows on, the formats. Or, stuff. There's ways around specific player questions that they can ask. I'm sure who's going to win is going to be some of the questions, but it's a way of introducing kind of a fantasy style into the Overwatch League. And the best part about all this, when you get them right, you get Overwatch League tokens. So you get one right, it's 25 tokens.
Well, that's through the challenges.
Wait.
Is how you get
challenges are different than the questions?
That's tied into it. Like, you have to get, like, so many right in order to complete the challenge.
Oh, okay. So, like, let's say you get 4 right, you complete a challenge. And you get 20. I'm going to be so flush with Overwatch League tokens from all the right answers I'll be giving.
You're going to be as full as Bob.
I don't even know if I'll know what to do with them. Like, in 2 weeks, when I've already bought every Overwatch League skin available in the game, I don't know what I'm going to do.
Good luck. That's a lot of skins, man.
But I'm just that good. I'll just get them all right, and they'll just reward me. But
then they're gonna up how many you need to complete the challenges because of that.
They'll just start banning you from contests because you win too often.
They'll be like, they'll call it the Ed rule, and then be like, you cannot get more than this many tokens in 1 week.
I loved all the tweets that came out. It's like, oh, finally, fantasy Overwatch, and everyone's responses were just like, it already exists, duh. Like, where have you been for the past, 4 months? Like,
but, a lot of people, unless they specifically go out and search for fantasy Overwatch, they don't know fantasy Overwatch exists.
Right.
Of course. It's just it's a simple Google search. It's just people actually doing that Google search.
Yeah. But when you're the first in esports history to have fantasy leagues like this, it's not something that immediately comes to mind. So at least it's putting people's thought out there. And I think this is probably like testing the waters for actual fantasy Overwatch next year. Like, they want to see the participation rates and stuff like that. And then they can introduce fantasy Overwatch next year.
I mean, part of it too is, like, we have seen the Twitch viewership taking a hit. At least watching live. I mean, like, the average per minute has still been pretty strong across the board for viewership. But there's been a lot of days when, like, you're going into the Overwatch League Twitch stream and there's not even 100,000 people in if the stakes aren't that high. So it's another way just to bring people back in that regard. And there's a lot of people who basically only log into Twitch just for the Overwatch League token. So hopefully this will be a little bit more incentive for people to tune in at this point. Now, outside of the system in place, it is worth noting that there is going to be a match schedule tab where you're going to be able to set calendar alerts via, like, Google, Yahoo, and iCal. So if you're looking at following, like, a specific team, you're able to get notified whenever they are going to be playing. So that will definitely come in handy in the future once we go to, like, the more localized, scheduled events for these teams, which I'll be looking forward to. And
the app has too.
Yes. So, like, it's going to be twofold. So, like, you'll be able to do it through this and then also the app. I know not everyone uses the app.
They're not going to do the contest with the app, I thought. I thought it was only going to be through the mobile site.
No, I'm just talking the app.
Right. He's talking about the alerts.
Like, push.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the actual, like, questions and points things, that's not going to be through the app. You have to go through the mobile site or through the desktop site.
Yeah. Do you think a lot of these questions that they'll ask us are going to be, like, Captain Planet questions? Like, about previous? Like, because, like, during breaks, they have questions like,
Does
Who
heart
had
count as an
that?
element, or
Well, earth, wind, water. No, like who had the
And
most?
I am Captain Planet.
He's
Sorry.
a hero, gonna take pollution down to zero. Um, no, like who had the most Earth Shatter stuns? Stage 3. Like those are kind of questions I could see them asking too.
I don't think so, because they're talking about how like they're going to add additional questions for upcoming matches, add in an hour before the match start time, and then you'll be like notified whenever they add new stuff. So, I don't think we're gonna get much of that. I think it's gonna be whatever is
More
going to be
prediction.
happening in that next game, essentially.
Yeah, predictions for that game. Not like trivia you could look up.
Yeah, yeah. Now, will
Although
they?
I am pretty good at those trivia questions that do come on. I
Now-
kick butt at those.
Right, but a lot of them are like, who had the most Zenyatta healing? Stage 3. You know, Izayaki, who didn't play, or Violet. Like, okay, Violet. Like, a lot of them are like, okay, we'll do that.
it's like whose name is a Pokemon? Yveltal, EQO, or Surefour, and you're like, oh,
Or FRD.
or
Yeah.
FR, or yeah.
Yeah, what does FRD stand for? And then they'll
I
all
actually
be wrong
got
answers.
I actually got to get the entire story from him in Atlanta. That was an interesting thing.
Did you call him
He-
Bird?
He agrees with me that the casters should call him FRD for the same reasons I've pointed out.
I'm going to call him Bird.
We're all gonna
Mel
call him
calls him
something
Fred.
different.
He's a freaking ridiculous dude. It counts.
He was actually a pretty cool dude. When I saw his name, did not picture that as him.
Yeah.
Now, it is worth noting that for these challenges, not only are these going throughout Stage 4, but this is going to be running through the conclusion of the Grand Final. So this is going to be active throughout the rest of the season. So it's going to be something that we're going to be doing basically every day moving forward, basically, whenever it is a match day for the Overwatch League.
Yeah. One thing that does kind of suck that I'm kind of getting from reading about this is if you're not up late enough to watch some of these matches or log in at the right times, you're not going to be able to answer some of these questions.
Right.
But I think that's by design. I don't think it's building up to anything.
Well,
I
no,
don't think
I'm
you're going to be
thinking-
penalized for not showing
I'm
up to
thinking
one of them.
more for like next year when they're playing, in local time in, Guangzhou. And it's like, okay, well, if you're not on at our time, 2 a.m., you're not going to be able to answer any of the questions for the matches of that day.
Yeah, I guess it will ultimately boil down to how many questions do you need in order to get the 25 Overwatch League tokens. Like, let's say, like, baseline going into that first game, that they set, like, 4 questions ahead of time. Now, if you get all 4 of those right, maybe you get the 25 tokens. But, like, it's all gonna matter, like, how they're going to spread it out. Because, like, I would hate to be in a situation where, let's say you're not able to watch it live, that you don't at least have an opportunity just with that initial set. Whereas, maybe you would have to get, like, more than half of the questions throughout the entirety of the match right, as opposed to just the initial set. So, we gotta see how frequently they are adding questions along as the broadcast continues. And you're muted, by the way.
Aw,
I did
darn it.
At once an episode, and I had the best burn. So, like, this is something you guys have to worry about. I don't have to worry about this because I'm never wrong about anything. So
Except,
I'm always no. I'm never
Who won
wrong
our
about
bet?
I did.
The one that.
No, I did. And
What about the one with Bob?
Nope, I did.
What?
Whatever you're asking, I did. So I'm never wrong. I'm always right. Thus, I'm gonna get all the tokens.
Man,
I mean, you
the
were sure
scarcity.
right about the Spark winning in the playoffs.
Hey, who here predicted the Dragons winning the playoffs?
We're not talking about the Dragons.
Yeah.
We're talking about the Spark.
Sick misdirection there, Ed.
I was right
Hannah on
compared
Omnic
to
Weekly
all of you.
predicted it.
I'm
Which,
right
by the
compared
way,
to
guys,
3 of you.
go check out the one that Bob guessed it on.
Yes, go check that out.
Gotta
Hey.
share this stuff.
Get the origin of my name.
But anyway.
ZZ in the BLAZZIN.
So obviously, guys, this week is going to be a very interesting week in the Overwatch League with the introduction of 222. So there's definitely going to be some teams that are going to be slow to adapt. Maybe some teams that aren't going to have a lot of fall off. Some teams that are going to look a lot better now that they won't have DPS players stuck on Zarya that they rank like 17th in the league, and Brigida, which are probably like 15th or 16th, like the Philadelphia Fusion. So really all bets are off in regards to the pick'ems. And I feel like it's just going to be a state of flux right now. So if you only have like a 1 or like 2 match lead over someone in your pick'em leagues, I would not feel safe going into this, because who knows
If I could
what
actually
to
see
expect.
where I am on the leaderboard for pickups, that'd be cool too.
Yeah, that would also be fantastic.
Minor details. Minor details.
So looking at the lineup this week, there are some very intriguing matches, but in particular, like when we look back at our pick'ems, we're primarily sticking to at least one prediction a day, at least what we're talking about on our podcast. So Bob, let's talk about some of the marquee matches that we're looking at. So Thursday we have kind of a stage playoff rematch, which is going to have a lot of hype behind it after the Dragons' performance here in the Stage 3 playoffs. So why don't we go over the marquee matches for this week?
All right, so Thursday at 9:15 Pacific, the Shanghai Dragons are taking on the Vancouver Titans. Now, Ramses, what are you guessing is going to happen here? Because it's tough.
As much as I want to believe that the Dragons just take this flag from stage 3 and just keep running it forward, I think Vancouver wins. I think Vancouver's going to more cleanly slide into a 2-2-2 meta than the Dragons will. Especially when we're still not sure whether you're going to start Envy or, like we've heard, maybe Giguri or maybe even Youngjin on your tank. Like, you don't know. There's still too many question marks with the Dragons for me to feel 100% safe calling them as the winners for it. I think Vancouver's just going to be a lot more solid. I think Vancouver wins.
Interesting. Yeah, I think Shanghai wins.
I'm so conflicted with the Dragons because they are either going to be no different with 2-2-2, or they're going to be a lot worse, and I don't know which one it's going to be just because they don't have the third DPS. So I know there's going to be some teams that have primarily been running like the solo tank triple DPS. That are probably going to have a lot of refall. Like, I would say, like, across the board, it's primarily the Chinese teams that are the biggest question marks with the change. But I would feel better if Youngjin is on the Roadhog in this case for the Dragons. But I feel like Titans are just going to revert to run and dive. And if we see Bunker, I'm expecting Hoxel to just come out with the Genji in this stage.
Yep,
Yeah.
and that's going to be exciting.
Yeah, like that's one thing with the Shanghai Dragons. We just don't know what they're gonna do. Like they did so well. Obviously, they won Stage 3, but they did it on the backs of triple DPS. Really, Youngjin on that Doomfist was vital to them winning. Probably the greatest the underdog for three straight matches essentially, and they won them all. And,
Triple upset, beating the top 3 teams
Yeah.
in the league
but
record-wise.
they did that with triple DPS mainly.
Well, no,
a
they
lot
did
of-
a
a
whole
lot of it,
a whole lot of hog.
Yeah, a whole lot of hog, but like Youngjin on the Doomfist was amazing. Like it's gonna be interesting to see what they do when they're not allowed to switch to triple DPS.
Right.
And you're gonna get that from a lot of teams. I'm gonna be interested to see if Youngjin even plays at this point. Because I mean, are you starting Youngjin over DM or Ding? Probably not. Um, so is Youngjin going to be your off tank? If so, why did you trade for Envy? You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna go with the Titans on this one just because of the uncertainty that's gonna happen with the Dragons.
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
feel like with the Dragons, like if we're talking about the DPS duos, the two likely things that we're going to see are either going to be like Widow Pharah, which is something that they were running a lot, or like the Sombra Doomfist. I would feel a lot more confidence with the Widow Pharah compared to like the Doombra compositions, but I would definitely be cautious about the Dragons right now, but I don't want to take anything away from what the Dragons did. It's just a matter of how much of an impact is a lack of that third DPS going to do, just because it does kind of add a lot of disruption to what was happening with that team comp.
Yep. But moving on to Friday, we have 7:30 PST. We have the Seoul Dynasty taking on the San Francisco Shock. Ed, how do you think this plays out?
You're
You're
muted.
muted
All
again.
right. I think this is a coin flip. Really, I do, because Shock had been playing so well with 3-3. We saw what they did with the DPS lineups. I don't know what they're gonna bring out. We could see Smurf in there for instead of Super.
Mm-hmm.
We could see Sinatra and Rascal benched when they come in. It's another team where you don't know what's gonna happen with them because they were so dominant in 3-3, and then for some reason they're just like, we're gonna bring out this whole new team for the playoffs, for the finals, and
Just on the first map.
just
though.
on the first map, and it didn't look too bad. It just looked rusty against the Dragons.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna pick the Seoul Dynasty on this one. This is gonna be my upset of the week. Upset, and I don't even know if we can call it a super upset, but I think the Shock are gonna try and find their footing in the meta, and this first match is gonna be like testing the waters.
But, I mean, we
Yeah.
don't know what Soul's going to do either. I have no clue who's going to win this.
Yeah, the only thing is with Soul is we're so used to getting different looks from them. I've learned to just kind of be like, you know what? Fine. You guys have probably practiced this.
You just gotta roll with the punches.
Right? Whereas like the other teams are just like, okay, no, they've been doing 3-3 like for the past like 3 stages. Soul has been like, we have no idea what you're doing. We're just gonna kind of trust you.
If we see a lot of Orisa Hog, Shock's value is definitely going to be very high, though.
Yes, it is, because Choi Oben is a really good hog. Really good hog. And, the one downfall for Shock is if it is double sniper, I don't know if they have that good of a Widow. Baby Bay was
Architect.
Baby Bay was their best Widow, and
See, I
he's
don't
gone.
I don't believe that at all. I think Architect was.
Architect was really good at his peak.
Me and Frito go back and forth about this. I think Baby Bay's gotten better from season 1, but
He was
Baby
inconsistent.
Bay reminds me of AKM on Widow.
Mm-hmm.
Win some, you lose some, but it's not something where you're like, oh my gosh, this guy is amazing,
Yeah. It's just we don't know what's going to happen. They have 4 DPS who could all play. We just
Well-
have no idea who's going to play.
Moving on to Saturday at 3:30 p.m. PST, we have the Los Angeles Gladiators taking on the Houston Outlaws. Now, Ramses, you love your Outlaws, but what do you think happens in this game?
See, it's the kind of thing where, like, if I'm not, like, I have to be bullish on the Outlaws in every single situation, even if it looks like a blowout, because if not, I get the "you're a fake fan" look from Ed and Totem. Which is unfair because it's the Outlaws. So
And to be fair, though, like, we recently came to the decision that, Ed loves the Outlaws.
that's true. We have
We have
Does it?
video
We have
proof.
video proof.
over 80,000 people saw it and agree.
I will say this. I will cheer for the I said this on Twitter somewhere. that I will cheer for the Outlaws the second Raucus isn't starting and Jake's on the bench.
Well, we might get half of that. The thing,
Nope.
because
It's got to be both
no.
or none.
you can't half commit.
Well, because here's the thing with Houston. I've been saying this for a couple weeks. I don't know what the best DPS lineup is for this team. Because you would think you want Linkser in all the time because he is your carry.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dante has the higher skill ceiling than Jake and has a wider hero pool than Jake. It's not as weird. But Jake's your shot caller.
Problem is you take Jake out and all leadership on the team is gone.
Exactly. And then
you might have leadership on the team when they're winning, but boy, Raucus, freaking Muma, everybody just sits there in silence with scowls on their face after they lose a map, and it's so annoying. It's like, guys, come on.
Yeah, I think the other thing that I have issue with is I just don't think the off tanks are good enough to compete. I love Cool Matt. He's my boy. I don't think that his diva is going to be good enough to stand at top tier versus your other divas if they're in.
Cool Matt.
I think Gladiator. Don't tell him I said that. I think Gladiators win it. I would be stoked if Houston wins. I'll be excited for it, and I'll say I told you so. But I think Gladiators win. I
have to agree.
Do you think there's a situation where Dante just starts at off tank in this sort of meta?
I could definitely see it. I think there's a couple teams even that could just run, like with Shanghai, we're talking about running one of your former DPS players just as your primary Roadhog off tank the entire time. He's played Diva, so I mean we know that he can at least play a little bit of Diva, and Jake was also a decent Roadhog, but like again, these guys Houston doesn't do well flexing players on the off tanks.
Right.
Maybe they just shouldn't field an off tank, just go in with 5 people.
When I had heard,
just put Jake on off tank and just have him stand in spawn calling calls. Just have him step back, look at everybody's screen, and be like, "All right, you here, you here, you here." He could just be like the general on the field instead of playing.
I do think like I don't know. For some reason, I heard like a very unofficial rumor. Houston was getting one more signing, and I was like super stoked. Like it's gonna be an off tank, please. And then it's been 2 weeks. I haven't heard anything, so I'm abandoning that dream. So I think Gladiators win. I will be super surprised and happy if they don't, but I think Gladiators win.
Okay.
Ed, you got a face. Right. I want to hear what you're saying.
No, I actually think you are making the right call. I think the Gladiators win this. Not at like, and this is 100% not a knock against Houston. I think the Gladiators with the 2-2-2 are going to be one of the teams that benefit the most.
Mm-hmm.
And that is because of my favorite player in the league, Decay. Like, we haven't truly seen Decay be Decay. Like,
we've gotten a few little glimpses of him on Genji with 4K.
Yeah, you saw a little bit, like, you saw a glimpse of the future, but, like, you'll be able to see Decay be Decay in Stage 4.
And his natural element.
Yeah. With that support line and with whatever DPS, whether Sureforce starting or not, doesn't matter. Decay will be that DPS star with that tank line. I think the Gladiators are poised for a bounce back. And I mean, it's not like they did horrible in Stage 3. It's just I think they're going to bounce back, and they're going to be one of the teams that benefits the most in the 2-2-2 meta.
The most, huh?
I definitely could see that.
All right, well, moving on to Sunday at 5:15 PST, we have the Boston Uprising taking on the Chengdu Hunters. Now, Totem, make sense of this for me, because from where I'm standing, Boston doesn't look like they have really a very good, I don't know, Color X good, but I don't know. It just seems like a bunch of mediocre DPS that don't have big hero pools.
Yeah, to be honest, Bob, when I wrote this one down, I was just like, I am not very confident in either team right now. You have Boston, who is basically coming out of a 1-6 Stage 3. Chengdu did a little bit better, like they went 3-4 in this Stage 3, but both of these teams, this is a huge game because both teams are within one game of one another. both are vying for a spot in that play-in tournament. Right now, Chengdu has one win over Boston. There's like 6 or 7 teams all stuck within that, one game differential at this point. But, as we kind of talked about earlier, like, when you look at these Chinese teams, they have almost lost their identity going into this 2-2-2 change, because a lot of them did rely on the triple DPS looks. We have seen, like, Amen on, Reinhardt at times, but he's primarily been the Wrecking Ball player, and for the DPS, like, Jinmu's looked really good on the Pharah, but outside of that, there's been a lot of inconsistencies, I would say, on both sides here. I will say in 2-2-2, I feel like Boston has more potential. I think RCK's Hog is going to bring a lot to this team, and I want to see what their DPS situation is going to be, because to me, that's the biggest question mark, because there isn't a lot of flexibility on Boston from what we have seen so far, but if we get to see Blasé on the Doomfist, creating a lot of chaos, then I'm going to find a lot more confidence in the team. But right now, I honestly don't feel good about either team. This one is kind of a coin toss. I feel like the Hunters are probably going to be negatively impacted more so than the Uprising.
And you gotta kind of worry about Boston's main tank. I mean, Fusion's outside of Goats is like untested waters.
Yeah, he's been shaky, and right now that is pretty much the primary reason why I am leaning towards the Hunters at this point. But I feel like on paper, a lot of people are just gonna write off Boston just because that seems to be a recurrent theme. And after a rough Stage 3 performance, that's probably going to heavily lean into that as well. But either side, though, it's going to be a rough game for both sides. This could be a very close series.
Yeah, all of the games, for anybody vying for that play-in spot, this Stage 4 could shape up to be a very exciting stage.
Oh, 100% could. Because there are certain teams that aren't even... like, Shanghai has... Only 3 teams have clinched the playoffs. I believe. The Titans, the Shock, and New York. So, like, teams like the Dragons haven't clinched. A lot of these teams haven't clinched. It's going to be interesting to see how some of these mid-level teams do. And you're going to see that big battle towards the end for the 10th, 11th, 12th, 13th, 14th place. Like, I know it's like the 12 says like 7 through 12 that go, but you're going to see a battle to get that last spot up until the Kit Kat Challenge or whatever they want to call it in LA.
The Kit Kat homestand sponsored by Kit Kat.
Yes, break me off a piece of
that Kit Kat bar.
So it's gonna be, but like, oh, this is not a good matchup.
No, I think Chengdu wins though.
I do too, but like, I know this is the cop-out answer for what team's going to be affected the most with 2-2-2, but it's a cop-out answer to say Chengdu, but it's the truth. Like, who's there? They don't run off tanks.
Ball monkey.
Also plays Diva occasionally.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't run the traditional 2-2-2 or even 3-3. They ran, the ladder, the 3-2-1. Yeah, and that's what they've been doing. We don't know how they're gonna do because they made no pickups. So what we saw from this roster is what we're gonna get. So they could be dominant. They could be 0-7. Because Jinmu, as much as people love Jinmu, and everyone thought he was the best Pharah in the world, and I loved his Pharah, but
so wait,
actually,
you called him 0-7? 0-7 and
like,
Chengdu falls.
Like Jinmu.
Stand in the way of 3D, PS, and we will. No, I don't know. Sorry.
No, you're not.
Like, trying to rip it, not happening.
Jinmu is not as good of a Pharah player as people used to think.
Well,
Because
because he didn't play other DPS.
Because,
I called that way early. I was
but
like,
nobody
we
else
don't know how good
played-
he is until he plays other DPS.
Well, it's not even that. You're like, well, he's the best Pharah. No shit. Nobody else is playing Pharah.
He's the only one.
Once you saw other Pharahs, you're like, yeah, no, Jinmu sucks. Like you need to switch it up there, killer. Yeah. So we don't know what they're gonna do. I would not be shocked if they went 0-7. Like, would not be shocked at all.
I haven't looked at their schedule enough to give a good indicator, at least in regard to a prediction for how the Hunters will do.
They have a
They
really
could
good
be
chance of
mayhem.
going 1-0 here in the first, though. At least in this matchup, they have a real good chance of beating Boston.
I don't know. If Blase comes out on that Doomfist,
What else does he have, though?
do you need anything else? That
Yeah.
Blase Doomfist is one of the most dominant, like, heroes, like player to hero ratio. Yes, there's a player to hero ratio. It's very scientific. You guys wouldn't get it. It's big brain like me gets it. And so
That's,
there's the hero
smooth
to-
brains don't get it.
Yeah. So like
I don't know.
you know,
Ed's
the
brain's
hero-
pretty smooth.
have you seen the size of my dome?
It's a pretty smooth dome.
I had to shave my head. It was getting so big. Not because I'm going bald, but because my brain is so big.
The hair was getting in the way.
The hair was getting in the way of me learning more. And this is where I came up to the player to, hero ratio.
You look about as weird with hair as I look bald.
Oh, dude, you don't want to see me with hair. It's super weird. I used to have mutton chops instead of a beard. That was really weird, too.
So, if you guys are ever wondering why, out of all of the webcam frames, Ed's head is the biggest, now you know why.
Yeah, my camera's actually 10 feet away from me. This is just how big my head actually is.
And
Do you
it's
look
still
like
growing.
David Cross when your beard shaved?
Mm-hmm. You should see me. Last time I shaved my beard, I actually used to have a goatee, and I shaved it, and I just had a mustache. I'm pretty sure I was wanted in 7 states.
every once in a while, I'll let my whole thing grow out. Then I'll shave everything except for the mustache, and for like a weekend, just chase Mel around the house while she's going, "No, I won't look at you. I won't look at you. No, no."
Like last time I did this,
I look like Lieutenant Dangle.
my girlfriend at the time was like, "Come out, let me." I refused to leave the bathroom. Like I looked that creepy. Like I would go grocery shopping and get arrested. So yeah, no, that will not happen.
Well, anyways, getting back on topic here, guys. We do have an update.
Wait, we were on topic?
No, we're not. This is OWL off topic, as we've talked about in the past. But anyways, an update on our OWL by the numbers listener league on fantasyowl.com. We are sticking with the Sunday format, so our daily league, at least the featured one, will be on Sunday again this week. So make sure you guys sign up for this one in particular. And if you haven't registered on fantasyowl.com, what are you waiting for? Like, they've officially... Stage 4 is officially the launch. They've kind of had, like, a soft launch before this. But this week, Fowl has said that we will be giving away Into the AM alternate jersey to the winner of our featured league. So definitely sign up. We're going to be heavily promoting it throughout the week on social media.
Don't
So
let Ed win it.
that's the primary goal. Because, Ed
let
feels
Ed
like
win.
he's so big brained that he's just going to assume that he's going to win. So
I
whoever...
assume I'm gonna win everything.
So just
If we all
don't...
have the same roster as Ed, he can't win.
That's it. That is also true.
I'm not telling any of you my team.
Well, I mean, we're not
all of
talking about our teams,
I'm
regardless.
looking at you, Ramses. You cheating
Oh,
bastard.
yeah.
listening.
See, Ramses is the
Oh.
one that you have to worry about.
I will say, for Fantasy OWL, for the Fantasy Owl stuff, at least for the Thursday games, the one pickup I did want to mention, Meko is only 9 points, if I'm correct.
Okay.
There's a lot of like odd pricing.
No, I'm not saying it's odd. I'm saying go grab him. Like,
Yeah, Meko hasn't been playing, so
Mhm.
this first week, if he does end up seeing a lot of playing time, its price is going to go up.
Yeah, it'll
but
probably
At least
go
for
back to,
Thursday.
opportunity-
Yeah,
at least for
that
Thursday, go
is-
grab him.
Oh yeah, 100%. I mean, I know Stitch is way down there
Mhm.
in DPS value as well. Probably go out there and grab Stitch.
Yeah, it worked well in the playoffs for us.
Yeah.
Mhm.
'Cause it
Or you
allowed
could
us
just
basically
ride
to
the
pick whoever.
ding. You could just ride the ding carry train and hope that he delivers us into the promised land once again.
Well, that was more
Ding.
so for Ramsey specifically. That was definitely the reason why Ramsey's won.
And I credit my entire victory to him.
And I will say too, you know, like obviously a lot of us have been on the PTR this past week. I actually ran into Booger, who had won one of our last daily fantasy Overwatch League listener games
Booger, like
as
from
well.
Revenge of the Nerds. Booger.
I mean, who knows if he's named after that? But I thought it was funny. Like I actually ran into like a couple listeners like in the same game, which had levers on both sides, which was one of the like awful 5 support placements I had, which was a rough day to say the least. But like, I never expect to go in and to just get like recognized or just even see someone that I know from our league. So that was pretty crazy. But sign up Sunday. You have a chance at winning an Into the AM alternate jersey of your choice. And, you know, we'll see what the future holds in regards to prizes. But this is the first time we've actually had, like, a physical prize invested into the daily format for FantasyOWL.com. So definitely keep an eye out in the future contests for, you know, stuff that is outside of coins and XP.
Yeah, no, and if you guys want to throw so I can win, I'm totally game. Go ahead.
Bet you won't. Bet.
I'm
No,
going to
like-
bet on the field in this case over Ed.
I don't know. That's a pretty shitty bet.
Well, like
Have you
right now,
seen
we
the
don't
size
even know.
of my
I don't know
brain?
how many people are signed up as of yet. So right now, it probably looks like an awful bet. If like the field is just nothing.
Whatever.
but
You
that's
and
besides
your
the point.
Technicalities.
Yeah, me and my technicalities and the logic being brought into this. But anyways,
There is no logic with this podcast. Get that shit out of here. There's only
Ed's on the
Ed.
podcast, come on.
Yeah, there's only Ed trash talking,
There is.
and then like 20 steps below that is logic.
hmm
That's how I roll, and I'm okay with this because in my mind, I'm always right.
and
That
that's
would
what
explain
he's
a
gonna
lot of
stick
things.
with. But anyways, guys, let's go ahead and close out the show for tonight. So, you know, we have a number of ways how you guys can help us out. One of the best things to do is to go leave us a review. So, Ramses, why don't you let them know, like, where they could send us these reviews that we could read on air?
For sure. So, the best way of helping out the podcast, of course, is by leaving us a review on iTunes or whatever your podcast platform of choice is. It helps us like do better in the algorithms, makes us more visible, and makes it easier for other Overwatch and Overwatch League fans to find us. So you can do that, of course, just leaving a review on any of your preferred podcast platforms. And any feedback or constructive criticism you guys have for us is always welcome. We always appreciate it. And it really helps us kind of continue to mold the show and make it into the best thing it can be.
Like, if you want me to, like, lower Ed's, like, webcam frame so it doesn't take up so much room, I can do that. I can also expand it even further so he looks even more big-brained. But
I mean,
no one
the
has
thing
actually
is
said anything about it, though.
If you need my brain to be smaller, we need to contact NASA to use a satellite.
I'm going to start
Zoom in.
orbiting around Ed's head soon.
Like, I basically, my dome has its own, gravitational pull. It has nothing to do with the large belly that also gets a gravitational pull,
hmm
but just the large dome.
Ed is Sigma confirmed.
Mm-hmm. Yep, that's how I roll.
All right, well, moving on, we do have a way to find additional content out there that is available on our website as well as our Discord and Twitter. So, Bob, why don't you let them know about Overwatch Recall?
Overwatch Recall is a place where you can find listings of several of your Overwatch League, and Path Pro podcasts. You can find it on our website at owlnshow.com/OW Episodic listings are released every Sunday night. Keep up to date with the podcast scene. Follow Overwatch Recall on Twitter at OW Recall.
It is worth noting too, like I am always looking for people to interview, whether it is fellow podcasters, streamers, YouTube creators. If Overwatch is your jam, feel free to reach out to me and we will set up an interview so I can get back to doing a little bit more stuff outside of the directory. So, of course, guys, like if you want to support our network, you can do so a couple of different ways. We do stream regularly on Twitch, so you can throw your Twitch Prime subs at us, which costs you absolutely nothing. Any sort of like bits, donations, or subscribing on Twitch is also greatly appreciated. We also do have our Patreon page, which you can consider pledging to. We have tiers starting at just $1 a month, and it goes up to $10. So for more information, be sure to check out our Patreon at patreon.com/OWL Network. So you too can join the likes of our master and above patrons, Blazing Bob, Brendan, Josabal, Owl, and Kasha in helping our network grow. And I know Ed's just shaking his head because I didn't butcher it like 3 times and just combined them all together.
It's Kasha. It's Kasha. Confirmed. She was in my chat when I was streaming WoW, the raid and WoW Friday night, and I played Timber when she came in the chat, as like any good Kesha fan would, and she appreciated it. Just it's Kesha.
See, I wasn't there for confirmation, but I'll note that moving forward, Ed. But anyways, we do have a number of different ways how our listeners can get a hold of ourselves over on social media and whatnot. So Ed, why don't you go ahead and let them know how they can do that?
Right. So you can reach us through email at contact@owlnshow.com. We are on Twitter, and that's at @OWL by the numbers. We do have a website where we post all our YouTube podcasts, all that fun stuff at. It's owlnshow.com. We are on YouTube, and that's youtube.com/Overwatch League Network. We are on Discord, so come over there, chit-chat with us. We do get pretty active during games, so discord.me/OWLnshow. We are streaming presently live on Twitch at twitch.tv/OWLnshow. So we are a Twitch affiliate, so come help support the show by subscribing to our channel and earn our network emoticon. Use that Amazon Prime, get that free sub to any Twitch channel you want. We do stream pretty regularly. So Mondays, we have Overwatch League Network is Mondays at 7 p.m. Pacific. OWL by the numbers, this show, is
This
Tuesdays at... Yes, this one.
Oh, yeah.
The one we're presently on. Are you confused, Ramses?
I wasn't sure.
Do you need a flow chart? I could make you a flow chart.
Could you, like, make me a whole, like, graphic? Can you get Captain Planet on the stats just to make sure today is, in fact, Tuesday?
Yeah, I'll get right on that. Next time the Outlaws win a stage playoffs.
So never.
Yes. So this show is Tuesdays at 6 p.m. Pacific. Heroes Never Die, the Variety Overwatch podcast Totem and myself do, airs Wednesdays at 5 p.m. Pacific. Host streams, when available, run on a flex schedule, so be sure to follow us on Twitch to know when we're going live. It's kind of like roughly like Mondays before Overwatch League Network. Me and Totem will sometimes stream, and then Thursday nights, Spider will sometimes stream. So just keep an eye out for all that. As Totem had mentioned, we are on Patreon at patreon.com/OWL Network. Question time. Has to happen every episode.
I don't know if we're big-brained enough to give you a legit answer.
No. If you do a head count and there's Siamese twins in the group, they count as 1 or 2.
It's 2 heads, therefore.
But it's one person.
Doesn't matter. It's 2 heads. It's a head count. It's a physical counting of the craniums that are in the room.
But it's one person. You're only counting one.
But there's
person.
2 heads.
I don't know. I think Bob. What do you think? Bob's like trying to ignore us. He's like, God damn it, Ednar's
Yeah,
talking
he's-
again.
I plead fifth.
Okay, fair enough.
I would.
See? It's tough.
I would not just count it as one, and primarily this is because like you know you can look back at like Hydras and whatnot, and each one has like their own personality. So it's not like they're all just like one being, so to speak, in one mind. So that's
Yeah,
my
Ed.
explanation.
How insensitive of you.
Yeah, you know what? Nobody ever accused me of being too sensitive.
If it's a foot count, then we'll talk then. But it's 2 heads.
Well, what if? All right, so there are Siamese twins that have joined at the head. Yeah, yeah, your mind blown. Yeah. So I feel I win on this one.
Quality content here.
Another win for Adenar. But you can reach me on Twitter personally and yell at me for insensitive comments at Adenar Overwatch. Totem, where can they find you?
Well, I'm over on Twitter at TotallyDrunkCTR. Ramses, what about you?
I'm on Twitter at Ramses_OW. We just released a new episode of Push the Point today with Briggsy Cakes, which is really, really fun. We actually hit our first 2-hour episode.
2 hours, man.
2 hours.
Wow.
I freaking
I felt the spirit of Ednar just rushing through me, and all of a sudden I was right about everything. It was so weird.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say like you got like super nauseous at that point and then nearly fainted, but you didn't go that direction. So,
But yeah,
Oh, man.
stuff's going well with Push the Point. I know we all like Lebowski and I also recently guested on Overtakes too, so it's been a very busy week.
yeah, that was
You can find-
on Sunday.
Yeah, you can find out about all of my stuff at Ramses_OW.
All right, Bob, what about you?
You can find me when I'm not in a food coma on Twitter at oh man, I am so out of it today. At Blazin_Bob. That's BLAZZIN_BOB. And I think it's pretty par for the course to have the 2-hour episodes. Both High Noon Podcast and Owl Recap ran 2 hours last night, and both of them featured Frito from Your Overwatch.
Yeah, Frito pulled in double duty on that point, so definitely go check out both of those episodes as well. And we'll see whether or not Ed and I will go 2.5 plus again tomorrow as we break down Sigma and some of the other
There's a
stuff
high
happening
likelihood-
around the league.
There's a high likelihood.
But I do
Are
want
you guys gonna wear matching jerseys then too? Or-
it's possible.
I don't
Who
know.
knows?
I'm gonna let you know now. I'm gonna wear my Fissure jersey tomorrow.
Oh, then no. But with that being said, guys, I do want to thank everyone again for hanging out with us on another episode of OWL by the Numbers. This has been episode number 25. I've been your host, Totally Drunk, joined, as always, by my co-hosts, Edinar, Blazin' Bob, and Ramses, and we hope to see you guys back tomorrow night for our potentially 3-hour episode of Heroes Never Die. As per usual, guys, take care, and we'll see you then.
Have a good
Bye.
one.
Bye!